Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns. On today's episode, we are going to talk playoff races as October nears. My name is Tyler. Joining me, Will and Bobby. And, gentlemen, it's getting chillier outside. Temps are
Nice
dropping.
out.
Playoff baseball is almost here. And while that's all happening, stuff is heating up in the league as a lot of division races still in play. Of course, wild card and who is going to get in. It's the best time really for baseball. There's a lot of, I don't want to say meaningless baseball that happens during the year. But this is
Said like a true Pirates fan. Yeah,
exactly. But
this
this
is
is
true.
when every game, every series matters, and it is fun stuff to watch. So we are going to go over all the divisions, give you our input on who we think is going to get in, who we see having the best chance going forward. And we're going to start in the AL East. This is the division right now that I think is probably the most interesting. It's kind of the most up for grabs, I think, right now. Of course, if you've seen our last video, we talked heavily about the Blue Jays and the Red Sox as interesting teams that we viewed going into September. But the Yankees got hot again, and they're right back into it, Will, and a chance to win the division. But I mean, all three teams there within 3 games of each other, and this is going to come down on the wire. Speaking, excuse me, specifically on the Yankees, they're 8-2 in their last 10. They're heating up. What's been working for them?
Well, the Yankees doing Yankees things. I mean, the Yankees are a trial by fire. They hit home runs or they lose type of team. And I think you can thank a lot to their success to John Carlos Stanton turning into prime John Carlos Stanton somehow. And I literally mean somehow. When you look at this guy's numbers over the past 3 years, especially, it's just injury prone, disaster after disaster. And then somehow this year, he comes back after messing up both elbows. Like, how the heck do you do that? And then is batting 288 with 17 home runs, a 977 OPS. He is almost on par with his 2017 season with the Marlins, where he just missed 60 home runs. And it's really important that you have someone like him step up, though he's not the only one in the second half that's been doing well. Cody Bellinger's got 10 home runs, batting 270. Uh, Chisholm's got 11 home runs. Grisham somehow has 13 home runs. But the fact that Judge has not been the judge of the first half by a long shot. He's batting 230 with 8 home runs in the second half. They need more from their other players. And because of that, the Yankees are still in this when at times I thought the Red Sox were going to kind of run away with it. And the Yankees were going to be fighting the Mariners for that third wild card spot.
I mean, looking at those 3 teams, and I think we kind of talked about this in the Blue Jays episode, not their episode, excuse me, but the last episode, in that they're getting a lot of contributions from their top 3 guys, much like the Yankees have in the past. I still feel like, and you can correct me if you have a different opinion, but I still feel like the Yankees probably have the most star-studded cast out of those 3 teams, which kind of leads me to believe that they have the best chance for the playoffs. Having said that, though, I am worried about their pitching staff a little bit, especially with injuries that are mounting and obviously players that they haven't had all year, which, when postseason comes, depth is going to be an issue. Of course, their bullpen is also going to be a talking point as well if they do bad one night. But the fact that they've kind of gotten themselves back into it, their record in August was 17-12, which was among the best. So, they're heating up at the right time, and to me, that gives me hope for Yankees fans. Again, we did talk about the other teams, Will, but the Red Sox are another team that, I am gaining faith in as time goes on with them. I'm really kind of liking what I'm seeing for them. They're playing well, and they just got to keep it up. The other thing we're going to talk about is remaining schedule, and Boston and Toronto have tough remaining schedules. Meanwhile, the Yankees are like bottom or top 10 in best remaining schedules, or if you want to say it that way. They got
Yeah,
the
yeah.
10th most easiest schedule is what I'm trying to say. So I guess just overall with this division, who do you see coming out on top?
You asked the guy that question, and I told you ahead of time and ran out of time looking at everyone's schedules. God damn it. Um, I mean, I will say this when I look at the hypotheticals more big picture as to who I think has the best shot to get to the World Series, I was leaning heavily on the Yankees a lot as the team that I thought would get there. Um, but I will say I'm backing off on that just a little bit, only in that after looking at how the team has performed offensively in the second half, they're not bad, but they are definitely a step back from what they were in the first half, or I should say first half, what they are overall. Because like right now they are fourth in baseball in average, fourth in runs scored, and sixth in OPS. But in the second half, they are 10th in average, 11th in runs scored, and 13th in OPS. They're 21st in home runs, so the power numbers have not been there. And now Roman Anthony is on the injured list for who knows how long. And I do think that's going to be something that affects them. Um, I think in the end, the Blue Jays will hold on to the division. I do think the Yankees will really try to make a push or make it close the last 2 weeks of the season. And that might be the thing that can get the Yankees farther into the playoffs because the picture up until recently seemed to have been the Red Sox were the first wild card team, the Yankees were the second, Blue Jays had the division. And if it was a Yankees Red Sox face off in Boston for 3 games, I probably would give it to Boston. But if it flips and it becomes a home field advantage game for the Yankees, I think I might give it to the Yankees in that case. So the Yankees are probably have the best chance at gaining momentum entering the postseason, given what their last like 4 or 5 series are. But until I get a week and see how the Red Sox react, following the injury to Roman Anthony, I'll still give them the slight advantage right now as the team that I think will do the best.
I mean, the good news for all three of these teams is they kind of control their own destiny in the sense that they all play each other to end the season. So, I mean, yeah, for the Yankees, they got three against the Blue Jays, three against the Sox. Their lesser opponents that they have coming up, White Sox, Twins. They do have the Orioles, which, despite the year that the Orioles had, I think that can be a tricky one just because it's interdivision and there is still some I guess star power, if you will, with the Orioles in some cases where maybe they give them a fight. But again, overall for me, I just feel like the Yankees. I don't know. It's tough. I want to say the Red Sox have the most complete team. I think, as you said, that Roman Anthony injury hurts a whole hell of a lot. And, if everybody is healthy for the Yankees, I do like their chances, but the bullpen does worry me in the playoffs. I'm not going to lie to you about that. And down the stretch here, and meanwhile, the Red Sox have like the best closure in the league this year. So to me,
Yeah, you want to talk about that, Mr. Pirates legend Aroldis Chapman?
right? No, I don't actually, but
All right, fair.
I think that Boston has a decent chance to take the division. Like if I was a betting man, I think I put it on Boston to win this in the end.
Nah, not the division. I do. I mean, the Blue Jays they still have one of the best offenses in baseball and have continued that even to this point in the season. The big thing is just their bullpen is trash. They are 29th in baseball in the second half in ERA at 5.5. I didn't even look at the list. I guarantee the Rockies were probably the last one. But I do think that they'll have enough to hold on to that division, even if it is just 2.5 games. But as you said, I think the Yankees and Blue Jays are very similar in how their team looks right now, pertaining to how the starting pitching is contributing, how the offense is contributing. And the Red Sox, aside from the fact that just the home run numbers are down, while sure they're a couple ranks lower than they are compared to the entire season, the Red Sox are still top third in baseball in most offensive categories. So yes, I do feel like they are the most balanced, and as long as they can finish the month of September with a winning record, I feel like that could be enough to still overtake the Yankees or the Blue Jays potentially, depending on how seeding matches up.
Now, I, unless if you have other stuff to add on these teams, we can go back to
No,
them.
move on.
I want to put this out there
Uh-oh.
because in the same division, the Rays have now found themselves 3.5 games back. Now,
No. I mean, I would love it based on my predictions. I had them winning the division, and I felt bad about that for a month, and I felt great about that for 2 months. And then I'm like, I don't care. And so don't even put it into the ether. It's not worth it.
5 wins in a row, 8-2 in their last 10. They've gotten themselves to 500, man. Those 500 Rays. And again, only 3.5 games back from a wild card spot. I think really at this point you're working on one wild card spot with AL. I think the Yankees and Red Sox are going to get in. The Yankees, Red Sox, and Blue Jays are all three are going to get in. It's just that last spot, where you have Texas, Kansas City, and then Tampa. And I don't know, man. Like they're just an interesting team. Shout out Jose Caballero though, having quietly a really nice season. Albeit at a spring training park, but still. Uh,
You mean Caminero?
Caminero,
Junior
excuse
Caminero. Because
Junior
Jose
Caminero.
Caballero is the Yankee acquisition,
Sorry, yeah, but he
and
was great.
Caminero
Yes.
is like, all right, the team will trade you at some point, but it probably won't be for 3 years because you just started getting the league minimum contract.
I looked over and seen your face. I was like, oh, I got the wrong guy. But yeah, man. Uh, excuse me. I don't know, man. The Rays, as I always say, they find a way. They're at 500, 69. Nice. So they kind of sit there,
Nice.
but let's move on to another AL team, or another AL division, if you will. Detroit, I don't think we have much to talk about with them, unless you have anything to add. I mean, they have somewhat slowed down,
They
in the
have
second half.
absolutely slowed down.
Yeah.
They are a team that is very thankful that they had such a hot start because since the All-Star break, they are 21-22. They are in the bottom half or even bottom third in baseball in a lot of important pitching and hitting categories. They are 19th in ERA, 21st in starting pitching ERA, 17th in runs scored. Like these numbers here are the Tigers of the first half last year, which is more of the Tigers that a lot of people thought were going to be what they ended up being last year until they got hot late. So this team does not seem to have the fire to last as long as it did last year, even though that was really only through the wild card series.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Tigers as probably the team to beat, honestly, in the MLB
Not
at one
you.
point.
You
What?
don't get to say anything positive about the Tigers given where you put them in your predictions. You don't get to say
No,
anything positive.
what I was
No,
gonna,
you
no,
get to
no.
say nothing.
I was setting this up because what I was gonna say is at one point we were talking about the Tigers as the best team in baseball, like in June-ish, I want to say it was. Um, and definitely the best team in the AL, and now it's up for debate if they're even the best team in the AL. So,
They may
uh,
get the record at the end, but they're not going to be, I
I
think, a
mean,
playoff favorite anymore.
right, and that's my worry with them. Like, I still feel like the AL is open, or at least more wide open than the NL is. But well, I don't know. It's hard to say. The NL is just so competitive, but the AL, like, I could see them making a run, but just the way they've cooled down so much is really, not in their favor, and I just don't know if they can, do anything. Now, obviously, they still have the division in hand, but Kansas City is a team that has boosted themselves up. They're now only 2.5 games back from a wild card spot. And this is a team we had high hopes for. Will didn't really get to those levels this season. However, they are on the cusp of a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean the Mariners are the team I know they're chasing the Rangers too, because the Rangers are half game above them, but both teams are chasing the Mariners in the end for that final wild card spot. And I mean the Mariners are leaving things up to grabs. They've had a chance to try to overtake the division from the Astros and haven't. And the Royals may have just gotten lucky because of that. They really have just had a horrible offense for most of the season because their pitching has been fantastic. And so that's the only reason that they've really been able to stay somewhat in the vicinity of 500. But since the All-Star break, their offensive numbers have gone from like literally the bottom five in baseball to at least the top half. So they've made a huge jump. And I think given the Mariners' schedule, there is a possibility that the Mariners fall out, especially because offensively, since the All-Star break, the Mariners have even more become a power team. It felt like who just simply relies on the home run ball because their team average is around 220, which is like second worst in baseball. And their pitching is still not quite what it had been in years past. So it is showing signs of being vulnerable. They also did not impress when they faced the Phillies in Philadelphia.
I mean, the one thing I do look at always with like the remaining schedules at this point in the year is, are you playing teams that you have to catch? Kansas City does have a 3 game set with the Mariners, so in that sense, they kind of control, again, part of their destiny. But Kansas City is kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of what they have left. They do have a series against the Phillies, and Blue Jays, Mariners being their big teams. But then they have the A's for 5. They have Cleveland, who's really struggled offensively. So I don't know, man. There is a chance for them, but they gotta continue to be hot. They went 16 and 13 in August. I think to make the playoffs, you're probably gonna, let's see, they got 24 games left. Like you're probably gonna have to go what? What do you think for them to get in? Like
I mean, let's see.
six?
So what all right, so the Mariners, I guess it's partially that. I said I thought the Mariners I could hypothetically see go 12 and 10 the rest of the way, which would give them 85 wins.
Yeah.
So that would mean that the Royals would need to go 16 and 8 to
Yes,
be
and I
them.
was gonna say like 16 and 8. Is it doable? Absolutely. Is it likely?
Likely.
I don't know. But Bobby Witt's got to do what he can, I guess, to drag that team to a playoff spot. We'll see if they're able to do it. And then continuing to move west, we did kind of talk about the Mariners already, but that division as a whole is still up for grabs, I would say. The Astros still sitting at the top with 76 wins. Seattle still 3 games back of them, and the Rangers like just staying around at this point, sitting at 72 wins. Well, you can kind of take this in any direction you want, kind of talking about this division, but again, like we're talking about the Mariners, you're maybe missing the playoffs. They also still have a chance to win this division, and that's going to be on the back of what the Astros do.
Mhm. Like I said earlier, the Astros have given the Mariners every chance whatsoever to overtake them, and the Mariners just are not budging really. The Astros have been 20 and 23 since the All-Star break, the Mariners 22 and 21. The Astros have one of the worst offenses in baseball in the second half, 29th in runs scored, 27th in OPS, and their pitching is middle of the pack mediocre when that was a strength early in the season. The thing about the Mariners, though, is they are only slightly better offensively because they are seventh in baseball in home runs, so their run total seems to be higher, but they are the exact same, pretty much rank wise, when it comes to the pitching. So the Mariners, is it realistic? Yes, but I feel like in the end, the Mariners are going to have another situation where they had all the chances to overtake the Astros and they shot themselves in the foot. And the Astros, regardless how many people are different from years past or how many people are injured, they're still going to sneak into the playoffs with the division. I'm also not giving a crap about the Rangers. I have no faith in the Rangers coming in. They've been better in the second half. They still are overall a disappointment, mainly because of the offense.
I do you think though, I do want to touch on the Rangers real quick. Like their pitching has been so good this year. Their offense has started to heat up a little bit in August. Do you think that realistically gives them a chance? I mean, or are you just completely counting them
Realistically,
out?
sure. I mean, they're what, two back of the Mariners for the second wild card spot. It's very possible the Rangers go like 13 and 10 or something, and the Mariners go 10 and 11 and overtake them. But this Rangers team has always been doing this like hot stretch where they're maybe 5 games up, and then they lose like 4 or 5, and they're back around 500. Lose 3, win 4. They've just been this roughly 500 team. So while they've been 24-19 since the All-Star break, given the matchups they have remaining in the season, I still see them kind of splitting those. And so they'll finish with a winning record, but they're still going to fall a few games short.
Gonna be interesting, right? Because I'm looking at the remaining schedules. So Texas has the fourth hardest remaining schedule. They have
Mhm.
three with Milwaukee, six with the Astros, three with the Mets. That six with the Astros is enticing. See if they can get some division wins, and then meanwhile on Seattle side, they actually have the third easiest remaining schedule. Which, looking at the teams. I don't know. So they have the Dodgers for three. They have Houston for three. They have Kansas City. They have the Rockies. So like and the Angels. So those are kind of obviously series they should win. And then they have the Braves and the Cardinals. So I don't know. I think that the way that they are playing, there's a chance that they could falter a little bit, and any daylight that they can give the Rangers to catch up. I don't know, dude. This is a division that I'm having the most trouble with because I can really see any of those teams honestly winning the division. Like I can still see Texas winning that division. I really can. Is it likely? No, but like again, based on just how things are falling right now, how the teams are kind of playing going into the latter half of the year here, it's definitely doable. Again, because Texas, I mean, they have lost their last two, but 7-3 in their last 10. So, the AL West is going to be interesting. Is there anything else on the AL side you wanted to hit before we head over to the NL?
Even though things are close, I think in the end, the teams that you are seeing currently in the playoffs are going to be the AL representatives in the playoffs this year. The question is just simply where seeding is going to be.
Yeah, and I guess as we kind of said, like looking at potential matchups, um, you know, eh, we're kind of way out on this, but it's going to be interesting to see who Toronto draws if they don't end up winning the division. Because again, I think a lot of us think that they are maybe not going to do so well in the playoffs, but we'll have to see. Maybe they match up against a team that they match up well against, and you never know. But moving over to the NL side of things, let's start back over in the East. We've talked ad nauseum about the Phillies, but of course we will just mention them quickly because why we can't possibly pass on the Phillies. But I want to talk about the Mets a lot too. But again, talking about the Phillies first. Well, there's definitely some cause for concern just based on the trends that we're seeing from years past and on how they're going into the playoffs. Obviously, Zach Wheeler's out for the year. Aaron Nola is a shell of himself. And while they're gonna win the division, what is your outlook for them heading into the postseason?
Seeding is going to matter a whole lot about what happens and who wins those matchups. I think I feel slightly different about you about the trajectory. I mean, yes, personnel wise, it is different because of Zach Wheeler not pitching and Aaron Nola not being sharp. But the Phillies have the second best record in baseball since the All Star break, which is a much different situation than they had last year. And their offense has started to wake up where they're back to being one of the top five best in baseball. But I know what you're going to say about the bye. I won't say that's not on my mind. And really, the way that the bracket is looking, it seems to be a matter of when they could potentially face the Mets again. If the Phillies happen to lose the bye and are the third seed facing the sixth seeded Mets, then I think there's a chance they beat them because all three games would be in Philly. They have to face the Mets again in the division series, and that's a different story given how the Phillies just cannot figure it out at Citi Field. So I think for them, it's just a matter of continue with the strong offense. You've got the bullpen improvements in David Robertson and Joan Duran. Hopefully, Nola can somewhat find at least a glimpse of what he was entering the postseason. He hasn't always been the best pitcher in September in the past, and then sometimes can just flip a switch and he's back to being himself in October. Um, But I really cannot say how I think things will end up in the National League until I see how the seedings are.
I mean, for your standpoint, though, both of you guys, are you? We're gonna have a conversation because we always do about the buys. Because like, I think that I think that they probably not that they have it locked down because I don't honestly everything can happen. But looking at the Padres and the Dodgers, I'm not convinced that either of those teams are going to pass them by the end of
Mhm.
the year. I'm almost pretty certain that it is going to be the Phillies, which at that point you're maybe looking at a round two matchup against the Dodgers,
It'd be the Dodgers or the Mets most likely.
which that's tough. Now you would have home field advantage, but like that's a tough series, and
I
we
do
talk,
not fear the Dodgers whatsoever. The
yeah,
Dodgers have been a very, very mediocre team, if that, in the second half. They have literally been a below 500 team since the All Star break. And while their pitching has gotten a lot better as the starters have gotten healthy, their offense is like a bottom third, arguably, in baseball, which is saying something.
yeah,
Because the Dodgers right now are 19th in average, 18th in runs scored, and 10th in OPS since the All Star break, which is crazy because it's not like they're really dealing with injuries there, at least not as bad as compared to the starting rotation. And they're going to get Max Muncy back, who really has been their best offensive person, arguably, in the second half. If that, I think for the Phillies, I don't fear as much how they respond or how they're going to respond from the bye. It is purely based on who they're facing. If it's the
yeah.
Dodgers, I feel confident they can beat the Dodgers, if regardless of what the Dodgers do or did in the previous series. If it's the Mets, then that's a completely different story.
I mean, I think for the Phillies, it's Mets in if the Mets have home field advantage, that's going to be tough because that's the thing right now that everybody is like, ooh, not sure about. But I don't know, man. Like for me, the Dodgers are probably I agree with you, but then in the same token, I'm like, well, postseason Dodgers are also a different team, so I don't know. But I don't know, Bobby. Do you have a take on this with how you feel with them? Oh, we can't hear you, by the way.
Yeah, Muty.
Forgot I did that. Sorry about that. I'm with Will on this one. I think I'm not as scared of the Dodgers as I feel like we should be. But they haven't been good. I'm okay going up against them. The Brewers, as I'm watching the Brewers absolutely smoke them right now, are going to be more my concern going into the playoffs. I do think we when this team gets going, like with the two days ago, the Phillies had that comeback win. That is the type of baseball that the Phillies are capable of, and it once again becomes a thing with them about streakiness and how they need to get hot at just the right time. Starting pitching is a problem at the moment. Like that was not an issue a month ago, and now it is. Like I mean, Nola was shaky all year, and we were talking about that as we think he's hurt. But that's become more of an issue. I'm not as worried about the outfield stuff. Bader has been doing quite well. Marsh has even stepped up for a
Yeah.
lot of it.
He's
So
been
the bats are
fantastic
starting
for
to
a
get
lot of the second half.
yeah, so a lot of the bats are doing the right things. It's just a matter of everything kind of falling together at once. That's kind of the scary thing, which I don't know how to quantify that, right? Like I don't know how to say like, we should beat this team, we should beat that team. We got swept by the Mets last time. Now we have the Mets
In
in a week, I think. So
four
it's going to
games at
be
home.
it's going to remain to be seen. That series I think is going to tell me a lot about what we're going to kind of look like going into the playoffs, since we're going to be 2 weeks out at that point. We're going to be at home. We're going to be up against a team that I think we should just absolutely kill more times than not. So I think that's going to be kind of the deciding factor for me. I do really only worry about one team going into the NL side of things, and it's the Brewers. I don't worry about a lot of other guys right now. I just don't.
So the one thing to keep in mind too about the Phillies that'll be unique with whoever they face, and it has nothing to do with stats, just given
Mm,
how the starting pitching is going, they're going to put out most likely three left-handers in a row.
Mm.
yes.
And that is something that a lot of teams try to avoid because
Mm,
of just the fact that
righty
right-handed
dominance.
hitters are more
Yep.
dominant in baseball. So that, even regardless of how well Christopher Sanchez has been, Ranger Suarez has been, and Luzardo has been at times, just when you throw lefty after lefty, that's going to be an interesting thing that I don't think anyone can truly predict.
That's an
Losing Wheeler
interesting
is a
point,
big
yeah.
deal too. I mean, obviously not a lefty, but losing Wheeler is a big blow. Obviously it seems like he's better, in terms of medical procedure and everything. It was a freaking blood clot, for God's sake. That's not something to fuck around with. So obviously glad he's good. It sucks. You want that experience out of him, and he's had a fairly decent year. But yeah, I think Will's right. I think, we're probably doing 3 lefties in a row based on our current rotation of things. And Rangers taking a step down, but Christopher Sanchez has been a fucking ace this year. Like, he has been ridiculously good. So I'm just not worried when he's up there on the mound at all. So, I think
Yeah,
he'll continue to deliver.
I don't know. I guess my thinking about it is, and maybe I am worried about the starting pitching, right? Like, I think you know what you're getting with Ranger, and you know what you're getting with Sanchez. Luzardo, I think, is a wild card, and I think Nola, we know he can be great, but he hasn't shown that an ounce this year. So it's
An
hard.
Hands off
ounce
of them, man.
here and there.
Ah, it's
Yeah.
been a bad year,
He'll be
man.
a god one outing, and then his next outing he'll be senile.
And hey, and hey, guess what? If they get one of those outings where he does phenomenal in the playoffs, then my doubts are maybe put to rest. But compared to what they've gone into the playoffs with in previous years, of course, when you lose one of the best pitchers in baseball, obviously it's going to change things. But I'm just not as confident in that. And I guess you could say this with literally every team that doesn't win a championship in any sport. But I really feel for the Phillies, like, as an outsider, their problem has always been that not everything can click at once. It's all right, the batting is doing great, the pitching sucks. The pitching is great, the batting sucks. The bullpen is bad. Like, it's always that. And it's just like, the bullpen, they obviously got Duran. It's gotten a lot better. Do you guys have
Would we
doubts
lose
about them?
Alvarado?
Yeah, I mean, do you guys have doubts about that still going into the playoffs?
Honestly,
Him.
I really don't in the back end right now. Even without Alvarado
I'm
being a
fine.
part of it, with postseasons, you're just going to kind of rinse and repeat the same situation. And if you can tell me that if we were to win 3 games in a series and 2 of them are just repeating, I don't know, Strombanks, Robertson, and Duran, I don't have any issue. One thing that I know we want to move off from the Phillies, but this, again, another wild card thing we need to consider as we talk about the rotation is that they did sign Walker Buehler.
Yeah,
And so
which is
Buehler, well, he's
We
supposed to
haven't
be
seen
depth.
yet.
And we haven't seen him yet. He's gonna start supposedly 2 games from when he gets called up to help lengthen the rotation by going to 6 guys. And as long as he isn't like the worst thing possible, there's a very good chance he'll make the postseason roster, if anything, just because of his experience.
and the fact that he's a
So last year
righty
with the and
too. I
last
feel
year
like
with the Dodgers, he had a very similar situation to this year in that he had an ERA over 5 for the season, but in the postseason, he started 4 games, pitched 1 in relief. Of course, we know which game he did pitch in relief, but his ERA was roughly 3.5 in the postseason. So there is a chance that something like that could be a huge factor that we just don't think about.
I have a question real quick about just what we think of it. Do we think, like, depending on how these starts go for Bueller in September and just kind of seeing where he's at with things, do you think there's a possibility we put him above Nola when we get into October?
So the only reason I would say yes is because Bueller probably has a chance or has a smidge more experience coming out of the bullpen. And I think
Yeah.
right now, the way it's probably going to go, unless something changes in Nola's final 2 or 3 starts, is that they're going to go lefty, lefty, lefty. If it has to go to a game 4 and they choose not to pitch like Sanchez on short rest, then it's going to be a matter of, all right, what do we do? Do we do Bueller first? Do we do Nolan? And if he struck, like, it's just going to be a whole lot of mixing and matching. It's almost going to feel like a bullpen game with how short the leash is going to be. So
I'm
if
okay with
Bueller
that.
can do better, I think there's a chance. But I also see a possibility where they go with someone like Taijuan Walker, which, as much as we hate to see it, has had a decent ERA as a starter. If he struggles after 2 innings, then they choose to go to Bueller first.
I just feel like Bueller is going to make the postseason roster just in terms of, I mean, yes, excuse me, they'll have Taijuan Walker there as like the 5th guy who, if something happens in the first 3 games with the lefties, then you can go and you need a righty, you can go to him. But I also kind of think that's the same way that Bueller's going to be there. I don't know. They're I really do, for your guys' sake, too, want them to prove me wrong. I just it feels to me too similar to, like, some things feel too similar to last year, and I was very critical of them at the end of last year. So that's my only concern with them. But
Yeah, I
let's
mean,
I
we
think the
have
fact that they
just
don't look 100% is actually a
yeah.
plus. The fact
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
we
was
that's
just
aren't
true.
saying
tied to this team as feeling like the team or that this is our year, we don't feel that way. And so there's a certain,
not since 23.
like, we don't have the as necessarily high of a expectation, which if anything, from at least how the fans behave,
View
that
it.
could be different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
the final note for me on it is just like I just think it's a Philly sports thing. It just seems like all the pieces are always there and they just never sync up at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a Philly sports thing across the board. It's not even just the Phillies, and I'll leave it at that. But for the most part, I think, God, man, I don't know. The bottom
I'm
half
gonna
of the
shit on the
lineup just
Mets.
needs to. Yeah, that's true too. We got to shit on the Mets to make me feel better, but it's funny when Brandon Marcia is hitting better than Nick Castellanos, and I know I'm a Nick Castellanos hater through and through, but I mean, man, I need him to figure it the fuck out, man. He is gonna be a big point of blame for me if the bats don't show up in the postseason. That's all I'm saying.
all right, well, yes, I have the perfect medicine for you guys. You can now shit on the Mets, who have been struggling. 13 and 18 in August. They got a weird stat line. They had the most runs scored in August, but then they gave up the fifth most runs in
Mhm.
August. So, God, this has been a weird team because there was times where the bats were quiet, the pitching was great. Now it's the opposite. But they're really limping into the playoffs, Will. I personally think that they're dead for the division. Of course, I think they're still going to make the playoffs, but and I guess a lot can happen on that. You said that's a 4-game series they have with the Phillies, but a
Yeah, the
lot can
4 game series
happen.
in Philly.
But I don't know, man. I just feel like they're a team that's just out of momentum right now.
Well, so that's the weird thing is I get that in the sense of how hit and miss they've been, but their offense has been like top 3, arguably best in baseball since the second half, which is crazy because I remember us talking about how bad their offense was in July after the All-Star break, which was very true. All their big hitters were hitting like under 200 and some were even around 100. But like everything's just started to take off finally. They're third in baseball and batting average, second in home run, tied for second in home runs, third in runs scored, second in OPS. Um, you have players like Brett Beatty, who's got an 841 OPS, batting 293. Mark Vientos hit 223 in the first half with 6 home runs, 24 RBIs, and a 640 OPS. He's batting 277 with 9 home runs and an 895 OPS in the second half. And of course, Juan Soto seems like he's found his power swing again, and he doesn't have another 40 home run season. So the Mets offense is suddenly in a point where it is really kind of nerve wracking to face them, especially if you're going to face them at home. I mean, they just dropped like 12 runs on the Tigers last night. So what is the momentum against them? I would say no, only in that it's not like I felt like they really had that much momentum to begin with. So if anything, I feel like there is that upside. The thing that they really are going to have to figure out, and maybe they did figure it out in the new young guys they've called up, is that their starting pitching has absolutely collapsed. It's not to say it was necessarily the best thing to begin with, but I mean their starting pitching is ninth in baseball in ERA, but just since the All-Star break, they're 23rd with an ERA over 5. Sean Manaea has not done well with an ERA close to 6. Clay Holmes' ERA in the second half is approaching 4.5. David Peterson's got an ERA of 5 in the second half, but more notably, Kodai Senga went from having a 1.39 ERA in the first half to an ERA of 6.56. Yet they call it Noah McLean, and he seems to be like the next Cy Young. Like, it's absolutely insane how dominant this guy has been. And I know Jonah Tong has only had 1 start, but if McLean can continue to do what he's doing, that'll be a huge boost. But if Tong can do anything that's a fraction of what McLean is doing, then suddenly Mets starting rotation doesn't seem quite as bad as it has been for the last half of summer.
Yeah, I think they're going to be key into kind of what happens with the Mets going into the postseason. We did actually talk about Jonah Tong on our episode about prospects coming up. I mean, he was doing crazy things in AAA. Watch his first start, and I think I haven't said it in the video, but his delivery compared a lot to Lincecum, and man, it's crazy. The motion that he has to throw a pitch is something else. But I think he could be big for them, especially if they're kind of struggling in that starting pitching department. He can be a guy, if he can come in and contribute, he's going to be big for their playoff success. I look at their team; they're pretty banged up, and I wonder if that's going to, you know, get to them once the playoffs come. I mean, I don't know.
In the bullpen, yeah.
Yeah, like the bullpen, but
Ryan Helsley is the best trade ever.
I'm sure of it. I don't know. Like, do you fear? So last year the Mets, I mean, right, they slip in on the last day, and of course they went on to beat the Phillies in the playoffs. But do you fear this team more or last year's team more?
I mean, the short answer is going to be, I guess, how things stack up in the moment. I mean, the OMG Mets of 2024 really just had this kind of swagger about them that they carried for 2-3 months. Like, it was an ongoing thing. And the Mets team right now will have a series like versus the Phillies where they dominate. They seem like their offense and pitching is all set. They figured it out. And then the next series they'll get swept and they'll score maybe 5 runs.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Mets have familiarity with the Phillies, like, I'd say I fear them just as much as I did last year. If not, I fear them more because of what happened last year and us underestimating them going into the division series. But it's all, to me, really depends on how many games they play at Citi Field.
Yeah.
I really think they can put it together at when it comes time. I really do. And
they have the pieces in the bullpen that can step up if, like, a couple guys can stand out in the starting rotation. But I feel like in the end, it's just going to be a good pitching staff will stop that offense. Now, is it going to be the Phillies figure it out? Maybe more likely a team like the Padres. And if the Mets even get to like the World Series, there's the Red Sox. There's still, I would even say, the Tigers. Like, there's various, regardless of what happened yesterday, there's still various teams that I think will beat up on those Mets. And I do think the Mets pitching staff will not survive a 7-game series. They didn't do it last year when they faced the Dodgers, and I think that's more likely going to happen again, given how many question marks there are.
Yeah.
This is a team that I would have been scared of last year, is all I'm saying. Like, I would have been a lot more worried about them last year. Like I said,
that's why I'm scared of them more, I think, this year, because we underestimated what we were getting into last year. Now that we know what happened, it's like, crap, that could happen again. So I'm more scared than it was.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the mentality you guys have on the Phillies more than it is the Mets. That's possible.
We got to reverse psychology this into existence, is what it seems like. We need to hate our team, and we also need to worry about the Mets, I guess.
Yeah. I like their offense right now, but I've just had so many doubts about this team for a while, where I'm like, this just doesn't feel like our year. But hopefully, it changes in the postseason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I wanted to mention that speaking of hating teams, I had train trouble today, and I had some time, and I've re-listened to that guy who called into that White Sox station like 3 years ago and like went off about that. That guy was a prophet, by the way, because that was before they broke the record. And someone in the comments said no one hates their team more than their own fans, and that couldn't be any more true. And me and Wolf, I think, kind of personify that.
Yeah.
The way I've said it when it comes to the Phillies is we are painfully honest.
Yeah.
If you do good,
we know
us,
too much.
We will give you so much praise. If you don't,
I have to argue with my mother about why.
We will let you know.
I have to argue with my mother about why Nick Castellanos isn't good, and I'm like, Bro, he sucks.
You're not gonna know what to do with yourself once he retires. There's gonna be no more complaining about Nick.
Oh, don't worry. There'll be some like pitcher
Oh.
that's the heart attack that comes
It's
in, and Bobby will put all his hate on him.
oh,
He's
it's
probably
gonna
Kirkering
happen.
right now.
Who's gonna swing at the slider in the other batter's box?
Dude,
You know, like then there's gonna be other battles to fight.
it's my Ben Simmons.
Yeah, let's move on to the NL Central. Again, we talked pretty heavily about the Brewers in our last episode, so check that out if you want to see that. I mean, we can't touch on them again. I'm going to say the same things, though. I think they're just so well-rounded. To me, they have the one seed locked up. I don't see anybody overtaking them. However, the Cubs have quietly gotten themselves back to 5 games out. I'm not saying that they're going to catch them, but there are 80 wins now, which is a little bit surprising, if you will, because they kind of quietly got there. The Cubs team I want to talk about because I think whoever they end up playing in that 4-5 matchup is going to be a banger. Right now, it's slated to be the Padres. It could be the Mets though, but I think either matchup would be absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, well, we've kind of been back and forth on the Cubs this year. Like I remember at the start, we were really high on them, and then we weren't, and then we kind of got high on them again, and then we weren't. So, how do you feel about them at this stage of the season?
They're gonna get swept.
Okay.
I didn't even have to switch
elaborate
over to
on
his
that?
full cam. I love it.
No, I knew it.
What?
I'm
What?
surprised that they're first in baseball and starting pitching ERA.
Yeah.
Since the All-Star break, that's crazy. Like that is not something I would have thought about. But their bullpen ERA is 24th, and their offense is horrendous. Like, remember when Pete Crow Armstrong was like potentially the person that could take down Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, remember that? Yeah, 212, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs in the second half. Nice. Kyle
At a
Tucker
114
basically
WRC
has
plus,
2
too.
injuries right now. He's got a hairline fracture in his hand that he's playing through, but he's also been day-to-day right now with calf tightness. He's batting 233. Seiya Suzuki, he had a career year, right? 203s and since the All-Star break. Like, what happened to this team? They've absolutely like died.
We happened.
Like, it's just baffling how bad they've
meanwhile, since August 1st, they're 17-14. Like through all that, so
it's I don't know. I didn't look at who they faced, and I'm just going to blame it on them. But I mean, when you have a really good starting rotation, I mean, if they can get you through 6 innings, then that's 2/3 of a baseball game. So you just need the bullpen to not give up more than like 2 runs in the last 2 innings. You might be okay. But this offense looks so freaking bad right now that I have no faith whatsoever. I think there's even a possibility that they lose the first wild card spot and have to play on the road.
Ooh, yeah. I mean,
Cubs played Baltimore, the Reds, the Cardinals, the Blue Jays, the Pirates, the Brewers, the Angels, the Giants, and the Rockies in August, by the way.
Yeah. And they have a favorable schedule. I mean, going for the rest of the year, they get the Mets for 3. The Reds and Tampa are their big teams. But then they have the Nats, Pirates, Braves, and Cardinals. So I think in that sense, I think they'll keep that first wild card. But I don't know, man. If they can like use this time potentially to just hold on to that spot and get healthy, I think that's probably the play.
The one bright spot offensively, Matt Shaw, is the third baseman they did not trade for.
Yeah, I mean, and he's had a up and down, you know.
So he had a down, and then now it's like, all right, I figured it out.
MLB player, yeah, exactly. Because that
95 WRC plus, by the way.
I mean, he started down, and I don't know, man. They're an interesting team. I don't really know what to make about them. I feel like the NL Central as a whole, I don't really know what to make about except the Brewers. Them, I'm like, all right, I know what I'm getting with them. The Reds, who I guess we can talk about now, even though
I didn't do anything on the Reds because I decided that there wasn't a chance anymore.
Well,
they were too much of a 500 team.
I'll tell you this. I agree. But for the sake of my like kind of love for the Reds this year, although I did just go on to our bet today. Couldn't even cash it out, which that makes sense. They're not winning the division. Um, but yeah, 13 and 16 in August for the Reds. They're 3 and 7 in their last 10. Not great. 4.5 back from the wild card. Not great. However, oh, excuse me, third hardest remaining schedule. Not great. However, I will say this, and I've said this about other teams. They control their own destiny, and that they have 4 games against the Cubs, 3 against the Padres, and 3 against the Mets. All teams that they are chasing. So if they have a chance, if they win those series, I mean, they're probably gonna have to sweep one of those series at least. Um, there's a chance. That's all I'm saying for the Reds, but
I
I'm
think will
not
just be
hopeful.
very sneaky spoilers. That's about
Yeah,
it.
I don't see them getting in either. But man, did I want
Terry, you
them to
let
do
me
something
down.
this year? Let's move on to our last division here. The NL West, we kind of touched about the Dodgers already. I do want to get into them in depth more though, because they've just been not themselves. Currently, they're losing to the Pirates again, which that should tell you all you need to know.
Is it Paul Skeens Day?
It's not Paul Skeens Day.
Then that really should tell you something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not going great for the Dodgers right now, and we of course have this expectation for the Dodgers that they should be a certain caliber of team, but will they have like really, really disappointed this year? And they haven't been talked about at all. Oh, by the way, they just lost to the Pirates. That has gone final. So, whew, another loss, and the Pirates won that
All right,
series. What's
20 and
happening?
22 now since the All-Star break.
Right.
If anything, they're showing how important it is to have a good offense. I mean, we can say everything we want about how good pitching can beat good hitting. Well, for right now in the season as a whole, their offense is still ranked top 5, top 3 in a lot of big categories like runs scored, home runs, and OPS. While their pitching is very middle of the pack, but they've started to get their starters back who were hurt for a big chunk of the first half. And they are now third in starting pitching ERA. But their offense in the meantime is 18th in runs scored, 19th in average. And it's just, who are you? Like,
They got shut out again tonight too, against the Pirates' fifth
I
starter.
mean, Mookie Betts has just had a something of a season. I mean, do we just want to all blame it on that bug he had or whatever it was?
Yeah.
252,
Started, he was
323, 376
like
slash.
like he just is a shell of the person that he was before. Will Smith has not been performing well.
Sorry to cut you off again. Will Smith actually got hurt tonight too. He took a foul ball off the hand, so we'll have to
I
look
thought you
at
were about
that.
to say that Chris Rock slapped him in the face.
No,
but,
no. Will Smith took a ball off the hand today and had to leave the game. So
Not again.
all right, so adding
it gets worse
injury.
for the Dodgers. Yes.
Teoscar Hernandez.
Oh, no. Anyway.
OPS under 700. Max Muncy was fantastic for them, but he's been hurt and he is coming back soon. So hopefully he doesn't turn into the Max Muncy of old, which me being someone that likes trends, he will. So like they are more than ever going to rely on Shohei, who also has an ERA of close to 5 since now he's back to being a starter. So, I mean, the Dodgers for a long time to me just did not seem like they have it. Last year, I probably put more of my distaste for them on the fact that they were the number 1 team in baseball and the trends and just the fact that the recent years prior to that, they hadn't done well. So I just assumed, they're going to follow what they've done previously in past trends and what history seems to say about the best record in baseball. But this year they just don't look like they have it whatsoever. That's why if they face the Mets, and it does seem like it's a possibility, I see the Mets offense staying kind of this like in between hot cold periods, but hitting whatever starting pitching that the Dodgers throw out there. And once the Dodgers are in a decent enough hole, their offense is going to shut down and it's going to be a quick sweep.
Yeah, I don't know. With them, it's like I think it's one thing, especially with these expectations. Like if they go out in the playoffs, in the NLCS or whatever, like yeah, it's disappointing. But like I just feel like from a regular season standpoint, this has just been very disappointing. Now they're gonna get in, and obviously it's what you do in the playoffs, but they have been very, very shaky. And then you have the Padres on their heels who have a chance to win the division. Now they didn't help themselves in the last 3 days as they just got swept by the Orioles. and they've been struggling. They have the easiest remaining schedule in the whole league. They play the White Sox and Rockies in 10 of their last 23 games. So they definitely have a chance to go on a run here and take the division. Do you see this being, uh, uh, the Padres could eventually take this, or do you think the Dodgers in the end will prevail?
I still feel like in the end the Dodgers will prevail for the sake of developing any momentum, even though I know they're gonna at lest the Phillies fall apart while the Dodgers are getting hot. The Dodgers will probably be playing in the wild card series, whether they win the division or in a wild card spot. But I feel like if they're in a wild card spot, there's a little bit more of a fuel to the adding fuel to the flame there with what they should be doing offensively and facing the Cubs. I feel like they could overcome, especially if they're playing in Wrigley Field. Um, I think in the end that while the Padres offense has gotten better, it's still not quite where I think it should be for me to feel confident in how they'll perform the rest of the season. As you said, they just got swept by the Orioles. So even though they have the easiest schedule, it doesn't necessarily make me think they're going to go on this awesome tear. Bullpen's great. Starting pitching still isn't. So, I mean, outside of Nick Pivetta, I don't really know what to think too much. Starting rotation wise, and I feel like they're a team that more than any in years past, they're going to overexpose their bullpen if they get into deeper rounds in the postseason, and the better offense is going to prevail.
Now, do you see them like kind of being like a Tigers team of last year? Maybe not using their bullpen like for the length that they were, but really heavily relying on it because, as you said, I
Yes.
mean, there's not somebody who's standing out for the starters, but we do know their bullpen has been great. Now they did lose Jason Adams
Yes, that is a
yesterday for the
huge
season, which that's huge. But I don't know. I just feel like they're probably going to be a team that experiments a lot with the bullpen stuff in the postseason.
I better compare them to the Guardians of last year, I'd say. Because the Guardians were a team that a lot of people thought could very well be the AL representative in the World Series. And I still think there's a lot of people that could see the Padres as the NL representative. And I do think that pitching, especially in the bullpen, is good enough, and the offense is good enough to get them through the division series. But I think that in that 7 game championship series, that's when they're just going to hit a rock against a better team.
Yeah, and again, looking at the division, I mean, they're 2.5 back from the Dodgers. With their remaining schedule, I mean, I don't know. Like, say the Dodgers play 500 ball the rest of the way, or maybe a little bit more. You'd probably have to go like, I don't know, 16-6 if you're the Padres, which obviously that's a big task, but with their schedule, it's possible. It'll be interesting coming down to it. But I do think probably, as you said, Dodgers prevail. We're not going to get into it, but I just did find this funny in research. Since we talk shit about the Giants, they're the hottest team in baseball, and they're
That's the
9-1. They're nine and
Egypt.
one. Yeah, they're 9-1 in their last 10. And oh, would you look at that? They're like sort of kind of in it. They're 4.5 games back in the wild card.
Shut up.
Just saying. And
Shut up.
their offense woke up.
You don't have to talk.
I don't have to, but that is my job.
Man on a podcast doesn't have to talk.
You have
Next
a
at 11.
job.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's set with the teams we have, but I just did find that funny that they're playing their best baseball after we shit on them. Anyway, that is, I think, all we have here for our postseason. Not recap. I was going to say recap video. That's not what I was going to say at all. Projections for the postseason. It's going to be interesting, man. September baseball is here. It's going to be fun. And again, like I said, before you know it, playoff baseball is going to be here. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at BL_breakdowns. Big League Breakdowns everywhere else on social media, excuse me. Make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.
Not wearing any seatbelts.